There are many techniques to exercise. There are many techniques to innercise your brain and the neural pathways of your brain.
It's with great pleasure, John, if you can turn your camera on, that I introduce the amazing John Assaraf, one of my top mentors and one of the people that we've looked up to at our company for such a long time. So John, thank you so much for taking the time.
You are welcome, Bill. It's great to be back again. And I do have a few slides if you want me to show any on a couple of things that we can have some fun with. And yeah, we're going to talk a little about everybody's $100 billion brain. There's nothing wrong with the emotion that is triggered in our subconscious mind around money or the loss of money or making mistakes. So would you agree with this premise first and foremost? Mindset is what separates the best from the rest. So let's take a look at lawyers or coaches who coach lawyers. Would you agree that mindset is what separates the rest from the best? And if the answer is yes, then let's maybe dive a little bit deeper into what mindset is. And before we do that, I want to ask you a question. What level of success do you want to achieve in your business? It doesn't matter if you're a coaching business to lawyers or if you're a lawyer that wants to get, from 250 or 500,000 to $1 million or $1 million to 5 or 5 to 10. As soon as we get over the $1 million mark, that's the pro level game, right? And you can go to obviously the pro level at, let's say, $1 million, but there's law firms that are doing 100 million and maybe even international ones that do over $1 billion, which means they may be going to the all-star team in the Hall of Fame because not a lot of people get there. But if you want to play at the pro level, would you agree that your mindset plus your skill set plus your action set have to be in coherence? Mindset plus skill set plus your action set has to be in coherence. And if you're out of whack on one or two, or maybe all three of them, chances are you will not hit the targets. And so the question is why? Why is it not enough to have, your vision and even your goals and even the reasons why you want to achieve it? There's only 4 reasons that we can come up with from a neuroscience and neuropsychology perspective. Only 4 things can get in the way. Your self-image, your self-esteem, or your self-worth. So I want you to think about this for just a moment. When you were you born with a brain? Answer yes. Were you born with incredible potential with this $100 billion brain that we can't recreate? Yes. But your brain wasn't born with a self-image or self-worth or self-esteem associated with it. It came with incredible potential. Would you agree with that premise? And I just want some feedback. I've got about 30 minutes for us to invest together. So would you agree that you weren't born with a self-image or self-worth? And would you agree that through your childhood, parents, grandparents, teachers, experiences, friends that you hung around with, you started to develop a self-image of yourself? You started to have an image of maybe how much you were worth in the marketplace. Let's keep this to business success. Okay, and so, if I become a lawyer, I should be able to earn, and then the environment that you were in where you learned about becoming a lawyer said, okay, if you're practicing law, this type of law, you should be able to earn between this amount and this amount. And if you get really good, it's between this amount and this amount. And if you really want to get good, you want to open up your own practice and have a whole bunch of lawyers work for you, here is the potentiality for you. So that became your map of reality of what is possible for you to earn. Would you agree with that?
So, and I just want to make sure, guys, you're taking notes here, because I was supposed to be I'm gonna take the coaching right now. Okay, so pick out the pen. Go ahead, John.
So I'll share something with you that we know happens in the brain. There are different types of self-images or how we see ourselves. There's a part of us that sees our future self, and this is the future me that I want to be. But then there is the me that I see myself to be right now. But then there's the hidden self-image that we've developed from childhood of whether I'm smart enough, good enough, worthy enough, whether I'm skilled enough. And when we get into our self-image around our business growth, If we're not, for example, a good marketer, or good at managing people, or hiring people, or good in sales, or we're good at law, we are good at our practice. If our hidden self-image is disconnected from what it takes to achieve that vision or goal that we have financially or non-financially for our law practice or coaching practice, then what happens is there is a neural disconnect between our conscious goal setting and desiring brain and our subconscious self-image. That's otherwise known as neural chaos or neural dissonance. Does that make fundamental sense to you so far? I'm going to show you how to fix this if it makes sense to you, right? So if it makes fundamental sense, so we have a goal, we have a dream, we have the reasons why, we're passionate about it. But if there are hidden neural patterns that say that you're not worthy, smart enough, good enough, skilled enough, we may be in some trouble achieving that goal. Now, what if we have limiting beliefs? What is a limiting belief? Were you born with any limiting beliefs or positive empowering beliefs? And the answer is no. You were born with 100 billion brain cells. Some were already pre-connected to run your autonomic nervous system, but the rest of the neural networks, beliefs became connected and then reinforced through the modeling, imprinting, and experiential years. And that happens between birth and about 25, 26 years young, when that prefrontal cortex, the thinking part of our brain, activates. But by that time, we are all creatures of
habit.
And every one of you answered that question, habit. Well, is it possible that our thoughts become habits? Our emotions become habits, our behaviors become habits. And then the habits that we've created then create us because we reinforce habits. I heard Bill asking you, why don't you want to take risk? Because once we get to a comfort zone, a habitual comfort zone, taking a risk is dangerous to our brain, and it deactivates the motivational circuit and the motor cortex in our brain from taking action as a protective mechanism. But when we have limiting beliefs, whether it's about our skill, our age, what we think we are worth, a belief that limits us, our beliefs actually set up the lens by which our brain processes all incoming information. It acts as a filter and deletes or distorts any incoming information that could actually help us, but it also drives behavior. So we can have one or two or three things that hold us back. So let me share with you how this works. And behind me, you may be able to see my image of Albert Einstein or my Frankenstein's monster brain. So the way yours and my brain works, and I shared this the last time I was on, is the number one responsibility of yours and my brain organism, which is evolving every minute of every day. It's not an organ, it's an organism, is that it measures behavior and it measures all the incoming sensory input from our eyes, our ears, our tactile senses against a hierarchy of how it processes information. So number one is if we set a goal, let's say to double our income this year, which doesn't maybe sound like a big goal, maybe 50% income this year. The first question that our biocomputer is processing is this going to affect my survival or safety in any way? If the answer is no, it moves to the next question. Again, this is happening in billionths of a second, and that is this possibly going to cause me any pain or discomfort? Is it possibly going to cause any pain or discomfort? So I want you to imagine this. You're doing well, you're making enough money, you're comfortable, and then you say, let's invest more money on advertising. And you say, yeah, if I advertise and I get more leads and I close more sales and I make more money, then I can put more for my retirement and I can take more time off and I can hire more people and I can have less stress, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Your brain says, that's great, Einstein, because Einstein's thinking about what the possibilities are that are positive using its imagination center. But the Frankenstein part of the brain is going, hold on a second there. What if your ads don't work and you lose money? What if you disappoint yourself because you can't figure this out? What if it succeeds and then fails? What if the market crashes? What if COVID lasts longer? What if negative is the very, very next processing part of your brain that you have to manage against, because the fear signal activates your nervous system to deactivate the motivational center and to deactivate the thinking part of your brain that you need in order to achieve the goal. So if you think of your brain as a network with circuits that turn on or off, when we set our vision and our goals and we have our why and we're excited and we release that dopamine because that's the reward neurochemical in our brain, and we share it with everybody, in this group or our accountability partners, etc. We're releasing oxytocin, we're bonding, we're high-fiving each other. If you don't understand that in the very next second, your brain is also wired to avoid any pain or discomfort that may happen in the present moment, but it's predicting what might happen next week, next month, or next year. And so you have this circuitry in your brain that's basically one foot wants to go on the gas, but there's another one that goes on the brake. Do any of you know what I'm talking about firsthand? You want to do it, but you revert back to the trivial many things or the habitual things instead of the things that can help you double or triple or quintuple your income this year, which is possible, right? Happens all the time. Well, there's nothing wrong with the system. Imagine you're driving your car and everything's going well. And all of a sudden a light pops up on your dash. Have you ever considered taking a hammer and hitting the light? Well, of course not. The light's a signal. Well, when we feel doubt, self-doubt, when we feel a lack of confidence, when we feel fear, whether it's fear of disappointing ourselves, fear of failing, fear of succeeding, fear of being embarrassed, ashamed, ridiculed, judged, rejected, whenever that automatic trigger happens in our brain, motivation is lowered, and so is thinking in the brain of how to overcome it. And we revert back, just like a thermostat works and goes back to its original setting based on the heat or cold in a room. Right? There's a cybernetic mechanism that it puts on the air or puts on the heat so that the room temperature stays the same. That's called a cybernetic mechanism. Yours and my brain has a financial set point, a risk set point, a business revenue set point, a profit set point. And anytime we deviate from what homeostasis is to our particular brain, which has been wired uniquely over the course of your lifetime, the trigger is set. The sympathetic nervous system, to be specific, releases neurochemicals like cortisol, epinephrine, or norepinephrine, and those chemicals agitate us. They cause us this anxious feeling, and we move away from those as quickly as possible. That's the neuromechanics of what's happening. And what is also causing many of us, me included, is if we don't know how to do what it is that we want to do. Our brain needs what, why, how, when, and whom in order for it to create the circuitry required to reduce the anxiety, the stress, etc. So in the absence of the knowledge or the skills of how to do something, we trigger the fear and uncertainty circuit. When we trigger that, guess what happens? We don't take inspired action. So would you agree on this? Have any of you ever tried to solve the 2x2 or 3x3 or 4x4 or the 5x5 groups? Have any of you ever tried to solve this?
Not me.
Okay, anybody? Has anybody actually solved it on their own? Let me know if you solved it on your own. No. Has anybody solved it on your own? You tried? Most people who try, 99% of people who try, okay, to solve this, do not solve it. Now, here's the question. Barb, way to go. You have a unique brain, Barb. Solved up to 3x3. So let me ask you a question. If you were committed to solving, let's say the 3x3, I'll leave the 4x4 alone for now, but if you were committed to solving the 3x3, would you agree that understanding the 2x2 is pretty easy, right? You can just figure out where the whites go and all this. But as soon as we get into the 3x3 and we add a level of complexity, now we're adding an element of what are the algorithms that we need in order to get the Rubik's Cube solved. Have you ever seen on YouTube or on TV kids that are 5, 6, 7 years old that solve this in like 15 seconds, 14 seconds? Is it because they're smarter than you? Or is it because they learned the algorithm and then they practice? They're incompetent at first. They're clumsy beginners, but then through perfect practice, they become better. And through consistent practice, practice is what makes permanent. What is it that we're making permanent? We're making the algorithm pattern permanent so we can learn how to solve this. Go to YouTube, you'll solve this in less than 5 minutes. The 4x4, if you're serious and committed, you can solve this in about probably 10, 15 minutes through some instruction. So knowledge and skill should never be the reason that you and I don't achieve the success.